Greetings, everyone. I am so excited about this conversation that we're about to have. As you know, this channel is created specifically to give you information, educate you, or certainly get you on a learning journey and inspire you. That's all we're here for. And today we are going to talk about deconstructing success, redefining fulfillment for yourself. Let me say that again. Deconstructing success, redefining fulfillment for yourself. In this episode, we are going to highlight someone that I have had an amazing experience with and have watched her leadership. And so I want to invite to the stage with me Tina Garnett. Tina Garnett. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, sister mother. So nice to be with you.
We are going to have a wonderful, and by the way, you look beautiful too. But
I see you.
I want to read your bio. I think sometimes we forget how much we have experienced, how much we have achieved. And so sometimes I will ask people, I'll say, tell me about you. And they leave out a lot of things. So I am going to take the liberty of reading your bio so that the audience understand who we're talking with before we get into this deep conversation. So T. Garnett, who is sometimes called T, is a passionate advocate and seasoned professional with nearly 3 decades. Hear me? 3 decades. She's not just coming. Nearly 3 decades of experience championing communities who are marginalized and developing equitable services. As a 7th generation Black Canadian and descendant of Charlotte and James Handy, residents of Priceville and Grey County, Oromadente Road, Black settlement, Tina has a deep personal connection to the causes she supports. So not only does she know it intellectually and has been highly educated, but she's lived it. In her current role, however, as the executive director of the Honorable Jean Augustine Center for Young Women's Empowerment, Tina is pivotal in forging meaningful partnerships and creating impactful deliveries that enhance the well-being of young women and girls. You know, that is also close to me. As the inaugural EDI executive lead and strategic advisor to the Children's Hospital. Now, if you don't live in Canada, you may not understand this. The Children's Hospital in Canada is if not the largest children's hospital throughout North America. So this ain't no joke. Tina crafted the hospital's first EDI strategy and scoreboard, an accomplishment recognized by Senator Sabi Marwar in the Canadian Senate, as well as Forbes magazine. Thank you very much. Tina's extensive career is marked by her commitment to decolonize change management and matrix, reflecting her dedication to breaking down systemic barriers. So Tina understands that you can't make change unless it's systemic. I just want to say, as a lifelong learner, she's obtained various college diplomas or professional certifications, along with a specialized master's degree, which focused on creating accessible social systems. So it seemed as if Tina was real determined to make sure she had all the tools and all the information to do what was necessary or what is necessary. He recently completed her Excellence in Executive Leadership certificate from Rotman School of Business here in Canada. Tina Garnett's expertise and unwavering dedication continue to drive positive change and inspire those around her, including myself. In addition to her professional achievements, Tina's approach to organizational change and support is marked by genuine openness and warmth. This is why I have her on, because I want to talk about the leaders who lead from the inside out. That's what this is all about. She creates a safe space for individuals to engage in difficult and unfamiliar conversations, offering psychoeducational cognitive support to leaders who aim to foster more equitable and safer workspaces. Outside of her professional life, however, Tina is a certified yoga teacher and enjoys reading, gardening, cherishes time with her growing family. Tina's unwavering dedication, extensive expertise, and deep commitment to equity, inclusion make her an invaluable resource for driving positive change and advocating for vulnerable communities. I'm going to add a couple of things to this. Tina was recently named, and I know it hasn't been celebrated yet, but I'm telling the world, one of Canada's 100 most accomplished Black women. That is not a joke. I got acknowledgement on its second year. I can't remember which year it is in now. So it's a pleasure to have you join those of us who are doing some amazing work. As well, Tina is part of a Sacred Leaders community. So she has gone through our Sacred Leaders training, a 10-month process. That ain't a joke.
Ain't
And
no joke.
is a sacred leader. Tina, I had to read that. I didn't even want to forget anything. I had to read that. And I am so happy that you're here with me today. We're just going to have a conversation. Listen, girl, we sitting at the dining table, we eating some
That's
food,
it.
eating some wine, and we're good to go. I don't have wine today. Today, I have Sorrel and Marby. I don't know why you're drinking, but we're drinking some.
It's all on soda.
Right? And we're
Yes.
just gonna have a conversation because we're living in a world that is for the most part would seem to be upside down.
Yes.
We know from a spiritual perspective that what is happening is a renewing and a cleansing. But what I want to talk about in this conversation is I want you to share with us how you got to and how you live the space of in this space of defining for yourself and defining success for yourself, right? So often in my own teaching I'll ask about what does success mean for people, what does leadership mean, and we get all kinds of answers. So I want to start here. Is there anything else that you want the audience to know about you that I have not read in this bio? So reintroduce yourself to us in your way if there is anything more. So that's the first thing I want us to do. And then we'll
Okay.
get into
Okay. Let's do it. Um, it used to embarrass me to hear my bio. I would be all, oh, that's enough. That's enough. Now I stand and I receive my flowers. I stand proudly in what I've earned and the accolades that I have been recognized for. More to remind myself that I've done it, not to remind myself of the success of doing it, but it was a journey. None of this was ever to end up in this place. I never had a dream of being a leader. I had a dream of living in a world that I had dignity, respect, and safety. And so I found myself in these conversations. I found myself in these spaces to continue, to learn and do more. What I wanted to do was support young people who were misunderstood, erased, invisible, and finding their way. And that just led me into the spaces. So for myself, even defining success, it changes every day.
Mm.
I don't know if I have a one size of success. It used to be to have the title, the power, the prestige, the things that I was told I needed to be successful. Let's start with that. What I was told to be successful was to have a university degree, not a college. So after college, I got what I needed, which was the education to support my family. But then I didn't have success because I didn't have a degree. And so even that social construct of college versus university in Canadian systems, practical skill sets versus theoretical frameworks. What is necessary? The skills. What do you need to understand to make the changes, the frameworks that the skills are applied within? And so I found myself in these spaces, I think mainly to give myself the voice of being silent for so long. I never wanted to be, I remember the first time my mom heard me speak. I had a speech impediment. I stuttered for years. I went to speech therapy for 3 years, the tip of the tongue between the teeth, and it's interesting. My wife will tell me, she can tell when I'm getting tired because my list will come back. So those things that I retrained, deconstructed out of myself, how I speak, how I engage, in order to be deemed a leader in a system that didn't even recognize my agency, didn't even see me and who I was. And so I played a game and gathered the tools I needed to be successful in a framework that I was being forced to navigate. I think in images and I see myself, all of us in this rat race, and they literally call it the rat race. Remember that game of life, the mousetrap game? These things prepare us. How are you going to engage? How are you I cannot change what life will offer me. I can only change how I engage with that, how I respond to that. And each time my level of success has changed based on my response of my agency being seen or erased. So I no longer am in pursuit of the power, prestige, and privilege, but joy. Now that that is a resource that we don't often talk about, but is my goal daily. And I thank you for that.
So I can hear folks in the audience saying, yeah, that's where I am, but now you're there. How did you get there? So can take us on that journey. So that place where many of us have been, where the system, the society, the culture, even the family tell us
Mm,
this is the way we ought to go, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
when we talk about somebody who has a speech impediment, all of that. And so this force, this push to be that thing that we are told we are to be. So, but here you are today, though. T. What? How did you get here?
I got here by taking a leap of faith, of jumping even when I didn't know where I was gonna land. My big pursuit, I think, of I didn't know what I didn't want. I didn't know what I wanted because I didn't have a life that was based on choice. I didn't
Mm,
have a life that was based on, "You got to get married." As a Black girl growing up in London, Ontario in the '60s, you were to be married and or be a teacher. And so I didn't finish high school because I questioned. I knew even at a young age things that they were telling me was false. Why? Why is it that way? Why? And if you can't answer why to yourself and others, you don't actually know what you're talking about. And most of our educators didn't know what they were talking about. And so I found myself in places that I was thirsty for knowledge, but it needed to be truthful knowledge.
mm,
And I grew up as a seventh generation Black Canadian where we didn't see ourselves, where I didn't know myself. I didn't even know my history as a Black Canadian. I didn't know how we got to be on Canada's soil, displaced bodies on stolen land. I had no idea about the history, colonization. I knew that I was poor. I knew that my mom was Black and my dad was white, and that it was not a good idea for them to be married in the '60s, given segregation was still alive in London, Ontario. So those systems impacted my life, and I didn't understand. I didn't understand why other people got options and I had limited choices.
mm,
And my sense of fairness is innate, and it gets me in trouble a lot. Being fair is different than being justice. Being fair is different than equity even. And so we often don't engage in these conversations of fairness. And it leads me. my whole life has been based on, is it fair? And I had to accept that life isn't fair. And now what are you gonna do with that? And sitting down and being a victim, I couldn't, because what would happen if I got back up? And so that places of, you could be a victim to your life, or you could be victorious over your life. And watching families be victimized by systems, I refused to be that. I didn't know what else there was, but I knew that was not gonna be me. And
Sounds
so that
like sounds like you were driven by the injustice and the unfairness that you experienced. And that drive took you to, you mentioned something, you talked about truth
mm,
and knowledge. That drive, that hunger to understand and to know is what was driving you all
yes,
along. You you talked about fairness
mm,
being even more, fairness and justice being even more important than equity. I've been saying that for a long time. 'Cause we can talk about equity, but if it's absent of fairness and justice, then we haven't met the goal. So, that's what keeps you there though. So that drove you,
mhm,
but even in that, you were still going after what the system said you needed, right? Which was the degrees and the education and the positions and so on. And then, so I want to tug a little bit at your hem and say, but tell us, what was did you wake up one morning and just say, okay, you know, I'm not staying in the system. I'm defining myself. What was it? What was that? What is
no.
it? Okay. What is it?
No, I was like, I wanted to be part of the system so bad. I wanted to win the system.
Don't we
I
all, right? Don't we?
right? I wanted to live in Bristol Park. I want the 2.5 kids and the vacation in the cottage. I want that. I played the game. Where's
When
mine?
when did you stop playing the game and decided
Um,
no longer gonna play the game? Because that's the question, right? That's the question that people ask. So I know you're doing this. And these folks are living their best lives and living their highest life. But how?
ah, and I
When?
wish I could say it was years ago. It wasn't. It's recent. I mean, it's recent. I actively facilitated my life to be successful, to be a leader in this game of life, this Canadian social structure of the picket fence and the kids and the get married. And I've been married twice. And I kept thinking, what's wrong? Oh, right. I'm not straight. That's what's wrong. But instead, I've repackaged myself so many times to be part of the game, each time to be put back on the margins, if you will. And so I didn't even realize that I had actively been pursuing validation by a system that I didn't agree with.
Hold on. You gotta say that again. Oh, hold on. So say that again. You gotta say that
I
again.
actively, I actively, tirelessly consumed myself with being part of a system that wasn't made for me, didn't respect me, and definitely didn't want me to win in it. But I was determined that I was going to be part of it because it's all I knew. I grew up with Dick and Jane and Jack and Jill. I wanted to be married. I wanted to be happy and have a house and family. I just didn't know that there was other options. So if you don't see yourself, you fit yourself in with what you see. But it wasn't made for me. And so well, I hit the level of success. I
Mhm.
became an executive lead at the number one. Let me just reframe that for you. The number one pediatric hospital in the world.
In the
In
world.
the world. And that status means everything to some. What changed for me is when I achieved all the things that I told myself would give me sense of value that I didn't find externally, that sense of value that I didn't have for myself without all of the accolades and accomplishments. I lost myself and who I am as T. That was when T was born, is when I stopped compromising myself out of my own equations, my own life for someone else's sense of happiness and joy.
Wow.
And so that was recent. That was within the last 5 years where I left the 200 plus income as a child born in poverty who went days without food. Like we were the epitome of poor, not just like we got no food, we got ketchup and flour and water. What you making today, mummy? Because that's the reality of being a Black family in the 60s in Ontario. There wasn't these options. And so again, watching that victimization, not because she didn't have the strength or the courage or the determination, but
Mhm.
you're only going to keep being chewed up by a system for so long and you just quit. I refuse to quit. That was my chutzpah, if you will. I will not quit. There's been once in my life I quit. And when I woke up in the hospital, and someone said, "Did you wanna die?" I was like, "No, I just didn't want this." And they
Wow.
said, "Oh, you can make different choices then." That was my first introduction to that I had agency to make choices in my life. I was 18, 17. And so you learn. You do the best you can with the resources at your disposal, but you also learn to recognize that we all don't have the same tools in the same sandbox. And some of our sandbox, it ain't even clean. And so we make do, right? And so I had the pleasure of working with you.
Hmm.
And I had learned from you as a sacred leader, but I had the privilege of working with you in a peer exchange at Sick Kids. And I had no idea what it would be. I knew who you were. I mean, I had followed on the peripheral of your life in many ways. Um, you had the audacity to say no for joy. Like, and it's still years later, I go, for joy. Like, what? But now, oh, it's priceless. I get it. If it doesn't bring you joy,
Yeah.
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so profound, T. When we, especially we as women of color, Black women, Indigenous women, racialized women, when we can stand in that space of power and realize that we can choose,
Mm,
and that in the choosing doesn't mean I'm going to go back to starvation,
no,
right? Choosing doesn't mean I'm going to go back to lesser than. I'm going to live substandardly. Choosing mean that I am choosing, my eyes are running, that I'm choosing, and I'm choosing my joy, and I'm also choosing the very best life that I can have. I'm choosing everything that I want now. And so my question for you is, and now you work, you do exactly what you want to do. You are guiding, leading, creating, empowering young women, and or certainly an organization that does that. You don't work
yeah,
necessarily with the young women because you're in a senior leadership position, an executive leader, but you get to choose what happens next. Along with that, you also run a coaching business, a consulting
yes,
business, and you're leading leaders.
yes,
And so that in itself can be a stretch, can be challenging. And I also know that you lead and you teach from a decolonized place, which is, again, opposite, contraire to the system.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to know, what is it that is governing you? What is it that is guiding you to make these very bold choices? These bold choices where you lost yourself within a system, did everything to prove that you could be that which they thought you could not be, moved out of that and has been successfully guiding your life and authoring every step successfully with joy. What is governing you? What is guiding you?
Spirit. It sounds so silly, but spirit and breath. Um, I also learned, life happens while you're busy making plans. And I had all kinds of plans. And then life happened and COVID happened. And all of these things happened. And it was an opportunity for me to detach from the stage I had facilitated my life on. And then I was no longer performing.
Mm,
And so I had to ask myself what I wanted now in that time. And it was also a time where I came into myself and understanding spirit and understanding God, God by every name in religion, be it spirit, creator, universe, call it breath, call it love. Um, and that I co create my life with
mm,
God. And so what do I want my day to look like? So I
mm,
started, and I don't want to get on the cliche of meditation and because everyone is talking about it. Everyone is talking about metaphysicians and all of these things. But there's a reason we're all talking about these like-minded things because
mm.
like attracts like. The world's an echo. All of those things that, Nanny would say, and I'd be like, Nana, it's such a cliche. And she'd say, you know why it's a cliche, little girl? Because it's the truth,
Mhm.
right? So it's those things. The world's an echo. What do you want it to look like? Well, I want my day to, I want to get all green lights to go to work. And I do. I drive across town through downtown Toronto and I get all green lights. I want to get, I want my money back from the tax man that I've overpaid. I just got a reimbursement from 6 years ago, right? So these things, people are like, oh, just coincidence. And I go, okay, you believe what you want, but I'm watching my life change. But what's changed is how I engage in my life.
So hold on. Don't move too fast on that one, 'cause that's big. What changes how you engage in your life?
I stopped playing a victim.
Hmm.
I stopped, oh, it's because of. I learned this expression that what you think about, you bring about.
Mhm.
What are you thinking about all day? You thinking about the bills? Ooh, you got more bills coming then. You just magnified it,
Yeah.
right? I think about how debt free I am all day. I give thanks. I give thanks for my debt free existence. I'm so thankful. I give thanks for the abundance. And that's not just money. My time is priceless. I have my fourth grandchild now. That's priceless. When I get to just sit there and hold her in a way that I didn't with my own 2, because I gotta go. I got school, I got work, I gotta go.
Mhm.
Now I have time. And if I control time, then I got everything. And so what changed is I decided I wanted a different life. And what would that look like if I could make it happen? So each day I open my eyes, I give thanks. Thank you. Not call God whatever you want. I had me, God, we were divorced for many years.
You
And
and
it
God.
was me and God, estranged. Oh, yes. God, when you're raised in the church and you see the blasphemy and hypocrisy, and yet you hear that God, and I had an experience when I was a child that I had no words for, but I had that memory of. And that memory kept me alive in many ways because I knew something outside of myself existed. And
Mhm.
it wasn't this white Jesus that hung up in the church I went to. And it wasn't the name of God that everyone was calling on Sunday, but then ignoring on Tuesday. And watching this God be blasphemous and used against humans, and watching God be the cause of war and murder and God. And I thought, I want no part of that. My God is love. My God is daisies, sunshine, rainbows, flowers, and dragonflies.
Yes.
Those are
Right?
the things that gave me joy. That was my God. So when people were praying to God, I prayed to the sunshine. I gave thanks for having clean water. I gave thanks for the elements that gave me life. That was God, not this God that I watched harm other people.
Mhm.
And so I struggled with that in a world that was, has Black people turn the other cheek. Oh, we are the smitten one. We will find heaven. Like there was some medal of honor to be the strong Black woman who was not broken down, to work tirelessly, to be self-sacrificing
Mhm.
as a woman, as a mother, as a Black woman,
Mhm.
to not eat your lunch, to feel pride of I only got 3 hours of sleep. Like self-abuse was celebrated.
Still is.
Still is. I don't want to die. I love me. And I love food. I love sleep. But I heard rest is the revolution.
Mhm.
Like these things, if we don't, what was it? SWV, free your mind and the rest will follow.
Yeah.
It's truth. When we stopped believing that there's a binary of Dick and Jane and male and female and gay and straight, and there's a whole continuum of gender expressions and sexualities. How come I only get two then?
Mhm.
Right. And so even those questions, where's my identity? As a descendant of Charlotte Handy, who found freedom by find in the story goes in a coffin on a barge. A woman stuffed herself in a coffin to come to Canada through freedom. Right? And I just think to myself, surely there was more
And
to it.
those are your
Those are
ancestors.
my people.
Those are your direct line.
My direct line. I didn't even learn that.
So and you didn't know that. So when we think about Charlotte and Handy, who and we think about us today,
Mm,
we don't have to stuff ourselves in a box. We don't have to
no,
do all of that to be. So what then is stopping us?
the
What?
fear of your own brilliance.
Mm,
I think it's easier. I can only speak for myself.
yes.
But I know if it's in the seat, it's in the circle, right? So these sayings, I'm telling you, they stick in your mind now. Um, what stopped me, what still stops me, if I am to be honest, in this moment, is the fear of letting go of what I know.
Mm,
I know my limitations. I know how big my world is. I know I dream about seeing another part. But what would I dream about if I was living my dreams? And so sometimes it's easier to have dreams than to live it.
I want us to just pause on that because you say it so easily, comes off your tongue, but it is what I hear in this work that I do all the time, right? This, I can have a dream. I can think of all these places and things to do and live in my vision. It's easier to do that. But I would say that it's more joyful to actually live it. And so when we hold ourselves back and stay in that dream space, and that dream space doesn't come into living vision, then we are robbing ourselves. And I'm so glad that you answer the question, not just for all the other people that we know that are struggling in that, but to say, even within yourself still, and
Sure.
myself still, there are places where we stop ourselves because we don't know. So we stay in this knowing place, and we fear to go to that other place. But I would also say that when I think about you, and read your bio and know what you have done, I would say that you have stepped many, many times into those unknown place. That thing that you didn't know what was going to be, or how it was going to be, or what it was going to turn out to. But this place, I was speaking with you earlier today, and the first thing you said to me is, I have surrendered.
Yeah.
This is, I have surrendered. That much I can say, I've surrendered. And so when we surrender, then the dream, we can take the dream out of that dream state, and we can live that vision because we have surrendered. And you know what it's like. So you're not just talking from these books and these theories, and other people's lives and other people's thesis. You're speaking from your place, to be in that place as a leader, living joy in so many ways. So you've talked about your grandchild, you talk about talk about your wife, you talk, but I also know that you're doing this even in your, not even in, also in your workspace as a leader.
Yes.
And so can we talk a little bit about what that means, and how to live your vision, to live in joy, to make choices, to see your the daffodils and the birds as your God, and to carry all of that, because what I've known of you is that it's no longer separated. You bring it all in. What is the impact as a leader on living that way in all spaces?
It's much easier, first of all, because I'm authentic. I'm not carving off part of myself. Am I too black? Am I too light? Am I too gay? Am I too? I am all, and I've stopped feeling responsible for other people's comfort and owning my own. I
Mm.
am, if you're intimidated, I have often heard I'm intimidating. And I remember seeing this thing on Instagram saying, I am not intimidating. You're intimidated. I'm tired of taking responsibility for other people's response to who I am. I'm only responsible for myself. So I lead that every day. I'm still the executive director of Gene Augustine Center. And if you don't know Gene Augustine, but you celebrate Black History Month, you should probably find out about Gene Augustine. If you came here, fairness commissioner, landlords and tenants, everything about she added sexual orientation to the Charter of Human Rights. The more I work for her, the more I discover that I have the privilege to benefit from her work as the first Black woman. I've been the first Black for many things, right? And so understanding that, but also witnessing what she had to sacrifice to do that. I'm not sacrificing myself. So
Mm.
what I demonstrate to my staff is the genuine characteristics of leaders are being authentic to who you are. I remember running a workshop on the characteristics of leadership are based on white supremacist ideology. Like, let's just let that settle in for a minute.
Maybe you should say it again.
I had worked my backside off to do a grad degree to become a vice president of an institution where I could espouse the learning of equity, fairness, and justice. And what I learned as the characteristics of leadership, it literally said Canadian leadership characteristics are based on white supremacist ideology. And I just had to pause because now I was torn. I want to be a leader. I want to be a VP based on white supremacy. What? That's literally what we're basing our systems upon? The erasure of other humans? The lack of humanity, the lack of compassion, the lack of humbleness, the lack of openness, right?
No,
And so punctuality, reliability, perfectionism. None of us are them, but that's what we base leadership on, right? And I just thought, what have I done? I I found myself on a stage playing dress up, and I no longer wanted to be in the role. And
Mm.
so it was in a way that I still had to honor myself. Fairness, justice, and integrity, those are my things. And so I have to demonstrate it if I expect it. What you give is what you get. And I also don't quit. Um, and so it was a moment of how I had to navigate putting back on my identity. And I knew that Tina would not survive that system. Tina believed in justice. Tina believed in dragonflies. Tina believed in spaces that didn't even exist in the real world. And so T was born, just T. And it was interesting because even just being Tina, people would be like, "Oh, you don't seem like a Tina. What is that?" What?
You actually so you actually created a persona to
Yeah.
fit into the very system that you disagree with.
I
So
created a persona to not to fit in, but to almost be the armor for Tina.
it was your armor.
Tina is very like, Tina is tender. Tina cries over love. Tina loves sunsets and rainbows. Tina is whimsical. I had
So
no idea.
why did you think so maybe that's not what I was about to ask now. Cancel that. So Tina, this softness, this gentleness, this goddess, this beauty, this life, this integrity, this fairness, love, peace, in that mindset, in that unconsciousness, did not see itself fitting into what this supposed leader is.
And Tina was Patricia Clinton's daughter. Tina was Shane's sister. Tina, so all of these things that I had identified myself by and as no longer existed.
Because they had transitioned, they'd gone on to
They
the
had
right.
transitioned. They were also the roles I played. Say?
So this was a survival mechanism.
It was a survival mechanism, and it was a way of saying that Tina didn't hmm, Tina wasn't gone, but Tina Tina couldn't do it anymore. Tina was broken. Tina watched the system eat my family up. Like, it was medical death that my family has all died from, as I work in a medical system. So the irony wasn't lost on me that I'm advocating for other patients' rights and watching my own family die, and no one's listening to me. And so watching this system eat us alive. Tina was a cop. Tina Tina was just that little poor black girl from London who no one listened to. But damn Skippy sister mother when T showed up,
Oh,
T showed up. You
T's
remember when T showed up.
T's roughneck.
Oh, T will, as my wife would say, T will show up in a Gucci suit and have a razor on their cheek still.
Okay.
Right? So T is
What I
to
what
play the game, but no.
what I find interesting about this, why I think this conversation is important, because I do believe that many will identify. I coach leaders, executive leaders in particular, and while they don't rename themselves, they rename themselves
Yeah.
because our name is our nature. And so they rename themselves, that imposter syndrome is part of it. The other
Yeah.
part of it is putting on that shield so one can survive, because one needs to survive so that one can accomplish X, Y, Z, and the other. Right. So we're talking to your story is many people's story. And where you are brave enough to name it and to rename that, many people they haven't even gotten there, but they are living
Yeah.
it. Right? And
Yeah.
so here you are having come back into yourself,
Yes.
have reclaimed Tina with all that laugh, joy, and smile and just brightness that I see around you, having surrendered to the truth of who you are and why you are here, and living a joyous life. Now, for somebody, because that's who is going to be watching this, for somebody, for a woman, for a man, for a person that is in that space, experiencing that. This is where they are on their journey.
Yeah.
Um, how would you advise them? What are some steps?
Hmm. I think one of the things that you just said that's resonating is that, while I may have created the alter ego T, many of us create the roles that we play every day. We
Yeah.
put on the mask, we put on the suit, we bolster ourselves up, and we remind ourselves, you got this, you can do this. We tell ourselves that every day, right? And so we play these roles until you find yourself no longer living the role, and it just becomes that. So, what part of that still resonates for you? So even while T was alive and well and you know, breaking barriers and unapologetically, Tina was able to come back into spaces that T created the space that allowed myself to stretch into, I guess I would say.
Uh,
I know I being Black, you you decide how Black you can be in spaces. Being gay, do I talk about my partner or do I talk about my wife? And we
mhm,
base that on the environment we're in. Is it
mhm,
safe? How safe can I be to be in here? And I
mhm.
often, and I think many leaders do, and many leaders who are often invisible in their own community of leaders, their peers. When you're sitting at the boardroom, is there anyone else looking at you? Whose
Yep,
eyes are looking back? Do you
yep.
find yourself looking down more or finding comfort in someone else, right? So even as women, we can make eye contact around the table and have a like-minded experience.
Hmm.
So we find that like-minded in our own experiences. Where did I exist today? When did I Tina, much to my own chagrin, Tina was the one that was like, "Nah, T, it's time to go." Tina was the one that was like, "No, we're done. We're done."
Did the thing.
Right? Did the thing, but also at that point where it's like, how much can I compromise myself out? And
Mhm,
as leaders, we often are asked, "Can you live with it?" I shouldn't have to live with it. I should have to believe in it, support it, and be it as a leader, because that's what we're supposed to be leading other people to do. And so that roles that all of us come into, that imposter, that fear, I can't do it today. Give yourself permission to not do it today. And if that means I remember one of my peers at a very one of the smartest people in the world, a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, said, "T, but if people knew I didn't know, would they still think I was smart?"
hmm.
I'm okay at not knowing, right? And so I think that where I was like, "What?" I've always had to accept that I'm not the smartest one or don't always know. When you're the only, whether it's Black or gay or whatever, you navigate that discomfort and find that sense of self in that unfamiliar, unrecognizable, and not really inclusive, fair, or welcoming. You find your traction.
Hmm.
And so here I am surrounded by some of the smartest people in the world. And you're scared to admit you don't know? What? That to me was like, well, there's a line in Rihanna's song that says, "You're mad that you bought the story they sold you." Girl, I built my whole life on that story. I bought the story, the script, and the memorial book to sign in to show my value. It was then that I decided if I didn't feel valuable in myself, someone else's value of me was irrelevant.
So that's a key point. That space of really exploring that introspection. How am I feeling? How
What
am I,
makes me happy?
how am I feeling about myself? What is that joy? What is that joy? And am I getting it here?
Yeah.
And is my purpose defined
Mm.
by what I was told it should be? How would I define my own purpose? When I asked, my favorite questions that I ask people, and every single time it just floors leaders, like, I've never thought about that. Who am I really? It's a simple question.
What's your
Who am I?
purpose?
Why am I here? What is my purpose at this time, at this particular time? And am I living my purpose? But not just living my purpose. Am I living my purpose fully? And if I'm not, why not?
Mm, why not?
If not, why not? And why not might be what you said. I am living in dreamland
Yeah.
and I'm afraid of what I don't know. Because what I don't know can be very scary.
Yeah.
You know? And so, much of the story you shared around your experiences in senior leadership and what that meant around you giving up yourself. I think about the amount of people. Do you know right now, Tina, there's a study that is out, you probably have seen it, that 60 to 70% of workforce is rotating in extended extended leave, mostly due to mental health and due to stress, right? Mental health challenges. And so that's the world we live in, where people are having to constantly take time off in the hope that when they go back, it will be better, right? And they'll be able to live it. But the place they're going back to did not change. So they take the time off, but they go back to the same place. And then a few months later, they have to take the time off again because organizations and institutions have not yet learned that they need to be human. It's a
Right?
human, and they are still operating on what you talked about, that white supremacist definition of leadership. And even for those of us who are anti-white supremacists, right,
Yep. Yep.
and human rights activists and advocates, we are seeped into the colonizers' webs. And so we do look to that and we do gaze to that and we do want to become that. And we're fighting with the same thing that created it? And so I want you to share a little bit, if you can, about how to operate even within that T.
Mm.
How to be joyful and happy and self-defining within those, because I am not I don't quickly say to people you have to leave, right? I think it's because not everybody is there, right?
Yep.
But if they're not there, they're not where Tina is, or they're not where Aina-Nia is, can make is willing to make those changes. How do they stay? How do they thrive and be well in these environments that define leadership through white supremacist lens?
Mhm. And it's interesting because I've had this conversation recently and I acknowledge that who I am now would operate very different in that same role and system than who I was 5 years ago. Success to me is very different than it was then. And so, how I would operate now is I would ensure I surrounded myself with the things that brought me joy. As I was getting ready to leave the organization, I brought in the African spiritual mask. I brought in my medicine bags. I brought in my spiritual belief system. You know, and people would be like, "Gee, what's this?" And it's like, "Well, that's a course. It brings love, right?" And so I often would just find other leaders, VPs and chiefs would be finding their way into my office to hold a stone I just need to ground. What do you say to ground myself? I just need, so they were picking up things that I had offered them. Because
Mhm.
what I realized is many of us have played twister in our lives to fit the role that we found ourselves in. Many leaders become leaders because they want to make a difference, not because they have the leadership skills. They wanted the money, not because they wanted to be a leader, right? So you find yourselves in these positions, prepared or not. So how I would navigate it now is what brings you joy.
Mhm.
When you wake up in the morning, what is it? Is it the sunrise? Put a picture of the sunrise behind your computer screen. So when you're looking at Zoom all day, you're looking at the sunrise. And so when I'm smiling at you, it's real. It may not be at you, but you think it is. So we're in a right. And so there's that dialogue. Give yourself permission to eat lunch. Not even give yourself permission. Carve out time like you would to go to the doctors to do self care.
Mhm.
Did you eat today? Have you drank water? And did you get a good night's sleep? Most of us as leaders, the answer is no.
No?
So those three things, start with that. Give yourself permission to put your phone away from your bed, put your phone away at lunch. You're not going to solve it all. We're not supposed to solve it all.
Yeah.
Not right. So I think start there. Surround yourself with the things that give you joy, and not just pictures of your kids. Because kids say, I need, I want, please help me. Partners, things that give you joy. Write a list of 10 things that make you laugh. Put it on your desk so you look at it every day. And try once a week to do something that makes you laugh. Doesn't have to be expensive. People are like, self-care. No, I'm not a massage person. Things that make me laugh, driving my car high speed through puddles, pure joy. I don't know why.
My grandson would love you. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my gosh. I love it. And Juicy, my grandson, we race car nana, and I blaring music. What gives you joy? Jump around. Like, and the other thing I would recommend to everyone working in a system, I consciously surround myself with the white light of protection. You could add white light of Christ. You can add white light of Buddha, white love, purple, but surround yourself with the positive light of love. And then when you leave your job at the end of the day, take it off. Just wipe it off because it's energy. Energy is real. When you walk into a room and someone gives you a screw face, you're going to feel that. If you walk into the room and someone says, Good morning, T, you're going to feel that.
Yeah.
We carry that all day. When you're working institutions, I spent almost 3 years in that space, and I can tell you on one hand how many people ask me out for lunch and how often. Right? Like, if you can't even eat lunch with the people you spend 40 hours a week with, you may want to question that. And if you want to eat with them, do you want to or do you feel like you should?
Yeah. So ask that question too.
Ask those questions.
Yeah.
Kimba said to me one time, because I was famous for saying, Yeah, I could do it. Yeah, I could do it. Not because I want to, but I want to prove my worth and my value. Yeah, I can. Doesn't mean I want to. So Kimba said to me one time, Do you know when to your own discernment? And I said, No. And she said, Ask yourself, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
Do I have the bandwidth to do this? And why do I want to do this?
What's your intention for the attention?
Right? Oh, that's even better.
What's your intention for the intention? That's all.
That's
But
it.
I think T, you have left folks with really good pieces. I like that 10 things that make you laugh. So folks, do that. Make a list of your 10 things that make you laugh.
10 things that bring you joy, and
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah, the ones that make you laugh. So how about 5 things that make you laugh
5 and 5.
for you joy, right? Make a list of those things. And then I would take that a little further and say to you, identify each of those things, how often you do that.
Oh.
How often do you do that? Out
And do
of
you need to do it with someone, or can you do it alone?
you and so this is where we talk about working on yourself, that we spend so much time working on other people and other things. This introspective place, this leadership place that speaks to introspection, intention, and implementation, my I3 framework, that it. You go inside. So if I have a list of 5 joys, 5 laughter, how throughout any given week am I doing each of these things? And then you also said, give your, I love this one, give yourself permission to eat lunch. Most people go 10 hours, you know that, 10 hours, 12 hours, and never stop to eat. Most people don't sleep more than 3 hours per night. Sleep is more important than water. Rest, rest is even more important than water. And then you said, surround yourself with joy. Surround yourself. For me, it's hummingbirds and butterflies.
Mhm.
Hummingbirds and butterflies, no matter what is going on. Hummingbirds and butterflies. Surround yourself in that, because I heard you give a really great tip, because you're saying if you're in front of the screen, have something in front of you
Yeah.
that represents joy.
Yeah.
Nobody seeing it, ain't nothing to it. Just have it in front of the screen, something that represents joy. I think those are really,
One more thing I wanna add. One more thing.
yes,
If you're in a job that you don't wanna be in, but you have a job that you're dreaming about, write that on a sticky. Now, I love my stickies.
I know you love your
I
stick.
love my stickies. A sticky, I deserve happiness. I am valuable. But write the dream job. So every day you're looking at that computer and you're looking at the boss and you're looking at all the people you don't want to be looking at. On the side of your eye, you're going to be taking in that message of the job you want to do. I am, and don't I wish, own it. I am the deputy minister.
Right?
Own
Right?
that. I am.
And bring that in.
Bring it in.
One of the things, we're going to wrap up soon, but when you talked about fairness, justice, and integrity in
Mm.
leadership, and each time that I teach leadership, as you know, I teach it from a not decolonial place, but specifically from indigenized practices. Those
Yes.
two things are core practices in the Ifa tradition, which is the tradition I follow. Core practices: fairness, justice, integrity. It goes further to say that we do not practice prejudice of any kind. Of any kind. Prejudice is not allowed. Judgment is not allowed. Those are leadership qualities, not that other one that you have to climb up over
Yeah.
somebody. And if you, what was can you live with it thing, right?
Live with it.
Those are hard. They are painful. They do not support your well-being. And so I thought it was beautiful. I really appreciated how you shared yourself in this conversation, T, because I know that the greatest intelligence is the intelligence that allows you to look within. That is beyond emotional intelligence. That is beyond intellectual intelligence. That is spiritual intelligence that creates wisdom, the one that allows you to look within. So you've shared so much of your own introspection and your own journey, and I really appreciate it. And I know without a doubt that there are people watching this that is going to benefit from it. If you take one thing away, if you take two things away, something you can take and act on, but most importantly, that you can introspect about. So we're going to close off, and I just want to know, I want you to tell people how to find you. I want you to tell us if there's anything coming up that we need to know about, that has to do with you and your work and who you are. And yeah, anything coming? Is there anything else that you just want to drop? Our team will make sure that it's on the screen, so that it doesn't get lost, and we will also make sure that we put it in the description.
Excellent. Thank you. You can find me at my website, equityandprovidence.com. And so when we think about providence, it means being prepared for the future. Future's coming. And so what I do is I support leaders to be ready. And leaders are not in titles or roles, but it's in personalities and mentality. And so a leader could be moving into your next position. It could be changing your life. So you could find me there, on LinkedIn, Tina Garnett. A big event that we are having, the Gene Augustine Center is celebrating 10 years of being in existence, but also 30 years of Black history being in Canada. And we are hosting a gala on June 6th in commemoration of Juneteenth and the Emancipation and my birthday.
And your listen, it, there's no other holiday more
No other
important.
holiday. I was born on Emancipation Day. It's
You
real.
were born on Emancipation Day because you helped us emancipate. You helped
That's
us
it.
emancipate. Thank you so much, my sister,
Thank
my
you.
friend, my daughter,
I
uh,
love you.
Tina Garnett. Because now, I'm so used to saying T, and now that we've had this conversation, I'm like, we got to get back to Tina. So thank you so, so much for sharing with us on the Aina-Nia Learning Journey Inc. YouTube channel, where we educate, inspire, inform, and most importantly, gets you on the road to living your highest vision for yourself. And so thank you. Blessings, blessings,
Thank
blessings.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beloved, stay connected with us by clicking the subscribe button and turning on your notifications.